Hey everybody, we wanted to welcome you to the Coaching Corner. It's a new way to think. My name is Herdy and I'm your host. And the goal of this podcast is to give people an avenue to look at personal growth, business growth, and leadership. I'm going to introduce Antoinette Griffin. She's a confidence coach here in a few minutes. But before we do that, I have some people to thank. Antoinette, we have sponsors for the podcast that are linked on that custom player, and I want to thank Austin Realty, which is Jeff Arnold. I want to thank All Star Pest Control, that's Randy Starr. Equestrian, it's a horse training center, right? Judy Gibney. And I want to thank Charles Schiller with Gateway Home Inspection. And guys, they all know the sponsors get a link on your custom player so people can go visit our sponsors. And we do ask that you support local Austin business if you're in the Austin area. If you're listening from out of state, obviously you can't do that, but we thank you for being here. And if you would, if you don't catch the live show, but you happen to be, you share this to some friends, Antoinette, and I'll be sharing it. If you go to Facebook and you look up A New Way to Think and you hit the join button, I will be happy to accept you, and you can listen to all the archive coach shows we have. And Antoinette is going to get her own custom player. What do you think about that?
That is great, Herdy. I appreciate it.
Is that awesome? So you are a confidence coach, and I imagine that you have a little description here that says, how would your life look if you could portray and increase confidence in social and professional settings? And you as a confidence coach help people improve their communication, courage, and charisma, correct?
Yes, that's what I do.
And so you sent me some questions that I'm going to ask you tonight. And the first one is, Antoinette, what is social confidence?
Well, you know, it's interesting. I put that descriptive word in front of confidence because we can be really confident professionally about our business or our job. So we can be totally confident in certain areas of our life. But what I really specialize in is how to be socially confident, meaning when you are around other people, how do you act confidently inside and outside? Because some of the most confident people in the world that really know their business well or really know their jobs well just kind of fall apart or get really insecure when they're having to communicate, for instance, with strangers or with authorities in the workplace, or just be in a situation where they have to navigate a room full of people that they don't feel comfortable with.
And I would imagine that there's a certain amount of shyness, right, that goes with everybody, correct? And it's just some is not as good as others, right? I mean, we're all got shyness to a certain level, correct?
That is very, very good that you see that, Herdy, because, yes, in the books that I have read, it has been shown that 80 to 90% of people admit to have been shy at some point in their lives, and about 40% of people admit to being shy currently. So it's a really huge thing out there that a lot of people don't talk about, but it's very prevalent in our society.
Yeah, and I think that's a fact for me a little bit, because even though I'm very comfortable around people, if you put me in a large group where I'm not around people I don't know, correct, and maybe I'm there for the first time in some large network group and I'm just not comfortable within the environment because I don't know anybody, I think we all tend to have a hard time admitting that sometimes we just don't like to go up and tap on somebody's shoulder or get involved with people, right? So I do that, and I know that's hard to believe, but it does happen to me too. So Welcome to the
Well,
crowd, right?
and thank you for admitting that, because you're exactly right. You come across as totally confident. I remember the first meeting that I met you at, the CBLG group, that
Right.
you came across to me as very popular, very confident, which I'm sure that you are. But to think that, hey, sometimes even Hurdy Burke walks into a room and is
Yeah.
feeling a little bit uneasy. I mean, that should make all of your listeners out there feel a little bit better
Well,
if even you feel that way.
yeah, because I'm my point to that is that anybody at any time, depending on where they're at, can have that lack of social confidence, and this is what we're going to try to get you to help us with tonight is put this together a little bit and try to find ways to work on that. So, hey, give us your. I know we're going to post it on the podcast, but you have a website. Can we mention that right now?
Sure, it's socialconfidencecoaching.com.
And we
Socialconfidencecoaching.com.
Yeah, and we ask you guys, please don't leave the show right now, okay? We'll have a link to that on the website. So, all right, so how does, Antoinette, low confidence limit people personally and professionally? I know it's a loaded question, but
Well, it really does limit people, and some of the things that people don't realize is there's a lot of really smart business professionals out there who, like I said, are very confident in their business or their product or their service or their job, but what happens a lot of times is because they don't have that confidence socially in the workplace, it can really limit them from advancement. It can keep them from getting promotions up into a management position because maybe the owner or the upper management of a company look at their staff and say, wow, this person really knows his or her job well, but they really aren't good at dealing with people. They don't seem very confident. They don't seem very comfortable speaking in front of groups. And so they hesitate a lot of times to promote people like that, which is sad because those are some of the most hardest working, smartest people there. So it really does limit people professionally. And then personally, it limits people because a lot of times when we don't have a lot of self-confidence or social confidence, we come across as being unfriendly because we're not making eye contact, we're not smiling at other people, we're not, talking a lot as far as initiating conversation. So a lot of times people will dismiss people like that and just think, oh, well, they're very unfriendly. So it limits them socially as well.
and so not to throw a wrench in this a little bit as I picture this, Antoinette, what are some, and I hope I'm not putting you on the spot with this, what are there some classic behaviors that go along with that low confidence that you see professionally?
Well, yeah, like I said, the not being able to communicate. A lot of times, people who are shy, one of the common traits of people who are shy is that they are really shy and intimidated by people in authority. Now, it's not a blanket statement of all shy people, but it's a common trait. In fact, I just completed teaching my shyness class at University of Texas, continuing education classes this month, and it's a 3-part class, and one of the survey questions that I ask in the beginning is, how comfortable do you feel around your manager or upper management at work? And almost everybody marked that they felt uncomfortable. And it also became part of our discussion in the class in that some of them admitted to, for instance, they get on an elevator with somebody from upper management and they just totally freeze. They feel very awkward. They don't feel like they can make small talk. They feel uncomfortable asking questions in a work environment. So it really does, that's one of the common traits for people professionally as far as it limiting them.
And I guess the low confidence thing would also limit your boundaries, right, from a personal and professional standpoint, meaning you may not be able to feel like you can speak up, or you might get run over a little bit, correct? You're just not, you're kind of scared to speak up and share your feelings, correct?
Right. Like one of my clients admitted he worked at Dell. And he admitted to saying, a lot of times people will pile work on me because they know I'll do it. And they know that because I'm shy, I'm not going to complain about it. I'm not going to go to my manager and say, hey, this isn't fair. Because he was shy, he wouldn't speak up. And you're right, his boundaries got overloaded because people were taking advantage of it.
And, I find, Antoinette, that people that with high confidence are able to communicate effectively their feelings without, anger, without, they can share it in a very proper way, so they do communicate it right, so in the right way, correct?
Oh, yes. Don't we all admire somebody who can do that? And
Absolutely.
Don't we all respect somebody who can do that? Because if you think about it, that's another thing about higher confidence is you're going to get more respect.
Absolutely. All right, so here's a toughie question, and I'm interested in the answer to this because I'm trying to figure out the difference. And you've got a question here. What is the difference between shyness and introversion? And I'm kind of curious to hear this answer myself.
Okay, sure. And I get asked that a lot. And some people will say, well, I'm not really shy. I'm just an introvert. And some people wear that with a badge of honor, saying, yes, I'm not shy, but I'm an introvert. And I am proud of it. And my best analogy, I guess, of the difference between shyness and introversion is somebody who is shy is somebody who feels socially awkward, either self-conscious about themselves or feels awkward about, oh my gosh, how do I really communicate with this stranger or this person? They may feel socially awkward, like people are watching me and I'm very self-conscious of myself. Whereas people who are introverted, they're not really thinking about that. They're not feeling socially awkward. They're not wondering if people are looking at them. They don't feel self-conscious. Introverts just, they'd rather most of the time be on their own. Not that they don't want any kind of contact, but they get more energy from being by themselves. And they kind of want to be able to pick whenever they have a social encounter because they see that as kind of like their energy juice. That's one of the best analogies is they're giving their energy juice to someone else, and so they try to protect it because they know they only have so much juice of extroversion out there. And
that's
so
interesting.
think of it like you're in HEB. Okay, you have one person that's walking around HEB and sees a neighbor and says, oh my gosh, on the inside says, oh my gosh, I can't go down the aisle where that neighbor is. I don't want to make eye contact with that neighbor because what do I say? I feel socially awkward. I feel really self-conscious. That's a shy person. So the shy person avoids the neighbor because they're feeling all this anxiety. It may not be a lot of anxiety, but some anxiety.
But enough, yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah, enough to make them avoid the situation. Whereas the introvert sees the neighbor and it's like, I'm not going to make eye contact with the neighbor because I really don't feel like it. I just want to.
Yeah, so they're not. Yeah, okay. So they're not lacking confidence. That's just the choice they've made.
Well, actually, that's
true?
a good question. The shyness is a choice, but introversion is really more of a trait that, if you're an introverted person, you're going to probably always be an introverted person. Now, I do want to mention that there are high-functioning introverts. For instance, Austin Smith, and he told me that I could share this, so I'm going to share it on this podcast, is Austin Smith will say, I'm an introvert, but yet he has shared with me how many networking meetings he goes to in a week, how many people he meets with one-on-one in a week, and it's something like he goes to something like 5 to 7 networking meetings in a week and has like about 15 one-on-ones. And I told him, I'm like, this is great because you are a perfect example of someone who is an introvert, but yet you get out there and you give your, quote, energy juice away. And yeah, like he says, at the end of the day, he's ready to go home and just be alone with his wife, but, you know, he's still out there really functioning well.
Interesting. See, I've never heard that put that way, and I always never thought of introversion as being, I always associated it with being shy. So that was great you shared that. I just never really thought about that. So they will give their energy juice away, but once they're away from that social engagement, the people, they just drop into their cave, wherever that is, right? And they're done.
Yeah, and they may be at a social event and still feel like not giving any of their energy juice away.
Just hang out.
One of my favorite experts on shyness is Dr. Bernardo Carducci, who teaches at a university in Indiana, and his picture of this shyness versus introversion is he says that at a party there's two people standing against a wall. The shy person feels like they have to be against the wall because they're too scared to come away from the wall. The introvert wants to be against the wall.
It's a choice.
Yeah.
All right, I get that. Okay. And so let's just segment into the next part of this, and that is the shyness and introversion an inherited trait? Another question I'm really curious to the answer on this.
Well, so people have a tendency to be shy. They've done studies, and this is in Dr. Carducci's book too, about how a lot of times that they've done studies that babies that need to be held a lot and cry a lot end up later on being shy. Which is interesting. So they still say it's not really inherited, but they are able to see this, you know, even from an infancy stage, that somebody's more likely to be shy if they've been acting this way as a baby. But but as you get to be an adult, shyness becomes more of a choice. Once again, like I said, do you really want to approach someone or not? Do I approach someone or do I avoid someone? Do I approach going to a party or do I avoid going to a party?
Gotcha.
And then introversion, like I said, is more of a part of who you are. Like, I used to be both. I used to be shy, very shy, and an introvert, and now I'm just an introvert. I'm not shy anymore. So
how does that work?
Well, I have those traits of an
I don't
introvert.
see you as shy.
No, and I'm not shy anymore, but I used to be very, very shy. And that's why I became so interested in this subject, is because I can really relate to people who are shy because I know exactly what's going on in their heads.
All right.
When I tell my shyness stories about what I used to go through, people just sit there and shake their heads in sorrow for me because it's just this sad, sad life that I led.
It's like they all start with their heads hanging down and then they perk up by the end, right? You're telling your story. No, I'm messing with you. All right. So you're a confidence coach. So obviously, can someone overcome these? Can they overcome the shyness? Can they overcome the introversion?
Yes, as far as shyness, you can, well, I take this back. I don't like to say the word overcome. I like to say getting past it.
Okay.
Because I think there's still a lot of good good traits that shy people have. They're seen as good listeners. They're seen as more trustworthy people. I mean, we all know the boisterous people who talk a lot and talk very loudly. A lot of times they irritate people, or they're seen as, like a used car salesman type person, whereas shy people
Yeah.
are normally trusted better. So I don't think it should be something that you should say, well, I'm going to overcome it, but you can develop certain tools where you can get past it.
And you can
And the
work through
same,
it.
yes, and the same thing as far as introversion. It's a part of who you are, but you can still develop certain tools where you can actually get past your introversion when you need to and be this high-functioning introvert.
Now, here's a loaded question for you. I'm throwing this one in, okay? Could
Sure.
some boisterous, loud people be that way because they are shy or they are an introvert?
That's a very good question. Yes, there are shy extroverts. There are people who you would not think of as shy at all. Here's a story. So it has been recorded that David Letterman is actually shy. And you wouldn't think this by watching him on TV. But my husband and I, John and I, went to see him in New York and sat in the studio audience. And we thought it was really strange that his guests that he had on the show, whenever they would break for commercial, he would not make small talk with her. He would just sit there and kind of ignore her. And we were going, oh, my
Wow.
gosh, she's this famous singer. I can't even remember who it was. And he wasn't making small talk with her. But it was probably because he was shy. And we just thought he was being rude.
Right, which
Diane,
goes back to what people think about shy people, right? Okay,
yes.
Gotcha. All right.
And Diane Sawyer, one of her famous quotes is, people think that you can't be on TV and be shy, but you can because I am that.
Yes. So you can have that side of you that's good on certain things, but you can still carry that shyness. That is interesting. I just had to throw that question, and I hope you didn't mind.
No, not at all.
Good. All right, so this is kind of a double-barrel question, and then I have some comments on it after you finish, and that is, how should other people interact with those who are shy or introverted? And then I have a follow-up question on that when you finish, okay?
Sure. Well, I think that the thing is to realize that if someone's coming across as unfriendly, then it really could be that they're not that way at all, that they really are just shy and or introverted. Because so many times people who are shy or introverted will admit to the fact that people a lot of times think I'm rude. People think that I'm unfriendly. And so therefore, when you're going to interact with somebody, look past that, that maybe serious game face look that they have on their face.
Right.
And give them a chance, but also give them time too to warm up. A lot of times with shy people, they just need extra time to warm up to someone. So they may be very reluctant to speak in the beginning, but if you show that you really care about them and take the time to draw them out, then they're going to be more likely to feel more comfortable opening up to you.
And then my follow-up question to that is that means that there needs to be some awareness on the person that's dealing with the shy or the introverted, right? They have to understand and have a little bit of a knowledge about what they're dealing with, correct?
Right. And a lot of times, how do you know that? A lot of it's just looking at facial expression, looking at their body language, how are they acting, just to really study people and to realize that not everybody is like you are. For
Right.
instance, if you're a very outgoing person, just to realize that some people may need more time to warm up.
And you can run them over like a steamroller, because sometimes we're so anxious to tell other people what's going on, and we don't realize that person's one of these two things, right? And we're just mulling them over. I'm guilty of that. I've done that. Oh, my goodness. I admit it. I admit it. All right. So what are ways that people can portray confidence in social professional settings? And this is kind of getting into the guts of what you do. So how do they do that?
Well, I tell people that when a couple things that you can do to portray confidence in a social or professional setting is to, when you walk into a room, whether it's an office environment or networking or even a party, is to definitely walk with good posture. I have to remind myself of this all the time. But a lot of times when we feel a little nervous or we're feeling low confidence, we tend to not even realize that we're kind of slouching a little bit because it's that whole, I'm hunching my shoulders over to protect myself. It's that protection thing. But what does it look like? It looks like you've got poor posture and you're not confident. Also, to slow down. We're told that people people who are confident walk quickly, but if you're coming into, for instance, a party or a networking event or some kind of group setting, when you feel nervous, sometimes you tend to, not you, Hurdy Burke, but a person tends to, walk quickly and, oh my gosh, I'm feeling nervous. I got to walk over to the beverage table or walk over to the brochure table, and
it just
it just looks a little awkward. And so just walk slowly through the crowd, slowly but confidently through the crowd. Another thing that people can do is to be the first to introduce themselves. So the key takeaway is the confident person always introduces him or herself first. How many times have you met someone and you've chatted with them and they're not introducing themselves, or you're not introducing yourself, and then it gets kind of awkward the more that you talk to them. But the person that finally says, well, hi, I'm Hurdy Burke, and you stick out your hand, then they're going to see you as a confident person.
Gotcha.
And it's going to make you feel more confident on the inside, too, when you do that.
Yeah, because you're stepping out and you're pushing yourself a little bit, which is great. Now, also there might be some techniques in having something to say to people, right? I use a technique, and you can probably you know all about this. It's called FORM, family, occupation, recreation, or management, or money, or something, right? If you can remember that, you can be asking people questions too, right? Which portrays confidence, correct?
Yes. I always say always start with either a compliment, a question, or a comment. So it can be a comment about the setting. It can be a compliment about something they're wearing, or a question. One of the things that I advise people not to do is to immediately ask, what do you do, even if it's a networking situation. Just because as a first question, it can be seen as rude in other cultures, because a lot of other cultures do not do that. They see that as rude. But even in America, where it's not seen as rude, still the other person can take that as, well, are they wanting to know what I do because they're wanting to know if I'm going to be able to help them get leads, or if I'm going to be of value to them. It's just something that, we all want to be known for who we are versus what we do. So I think it's a fine question to ask once you've started a conversation, but I don't think it's a good question to immediately go up to someone and say, so, what do you do?
Yeah, because you're trying to build a little bit of trust with this person, and you want to get to know them. And I've always been taken back a little bit when somebody shakes my hand and says, "What do you do?"
Yes.
Oh, you got an hour? You got 3 hours? That's always bothered me because, hey, don't you want to know a little bit about me first, or, so,
Exactly.
Yeah, I get that. And I don't think people do that on purpose, Antoinette. I think that's just part of that goes back to some of that shyness and introverts. They don't know what to say, right? And so they lead off with the standard network question, right? What do you do? Ugh.
Right, and it is very socially acceptable here, but I think that we can, like you said, get to know somebody first, and then maybe it's just 3 minutes later you're asking them what they do, but it's not the first question that's coming out of your mouth.
Right. So go back and repeat that again. So we missed on the front end of this. Repeat the 3 things that you like. You should ask somebody. You said a question. What was another one?
A question, a compliment, or a comment.
Okay. Good. Awesome. So there you go, folks. There's great advice right there if you're going out networking or if you're going to be in a social environment. There you go. You just put that in the back of your brain, write it down on a 3x5 card, and memorize it. Thank you. That's good advice for me, too. Okay, so what advice do you give someone who wants to increase their confidence? This is where you come in as a coach, right?
Yeah, that would be great. I do coach people one-on-one about that. Anything from dating to professional settings to just getting by in life. I've coached people who are students at UT who are having to deal with different people in classes and the whole social thing in college. But then also people who are trying to advance professionally as well. But as far as, and in a coaching situation, of course, there's goals that are set and accountability and all that. But as an overall advice that I tell, for instance, people that are in my classes, my Getting Past Shyness and Introversion classes, I tell people that, just do something that's out of your comfort zone. Because for some people, that's going to be just making eye contact with somebody, with a stranger. And
Sure.
if they're afraid to make eye contact with a stranger, I tell them, wear sunglasses, if you're outside, of course, and practice making eye contact with strangers while you're wearing sunglasses, because that way it's safe. Nobody's seeing your eyes, but you're practicing. And some people may be going, eye contact with strangers, I have no problem with that. But walking into a room full of strangers and initiating conversation is a little scary, like you said yourself. So if that's a little bit out of your comfort zone, then do that. But do something that's a little bit out of your comfort zone. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say a perfect example is because I am an introvert. This morning I was taking my dog to the vet, and I just wanted to drop him off and go to the gym and, really wasn't wanting to make small talk. But, since I'm teaching this stuff, I feel like I need to really live it, even when I don't feel like it.
You do.
So I'm sitting there waiting for the tech to come back, and this girl brings her dog in, and she tells the receptionist what her dog's name is. Dog's name is Buddy. And so even though I don't feel like it, I start going, oh, hi, Buddy. Buddy's so cute, blah, blah, blah. And so then she's going, oh, what's your dog's name? And so then by the time I'm leaving, she's going, bye, Sherman. It was so nice to meet you, Sherman. And I walk out with a little pep in my step going, okay, I didn't feel like making conversation, but we talked about our dogs, and I'm leaving feeling a little bit more energized than had I come in and just, taken care of what I needed to do and walked out. Yeah.
And I imagine for those folks that want to increase their confidence, also there's some things like reading material that builds confidence, right, and then carrying out that in an action plan, right? Start training your mind to think differently, correct?
Right, exactly. And it's funny that you said that because just on Tuesday was the last day of my class at UT, and one of the girls in the class said, I'm thinking differently now, and that's what I like because this is causing me to think differently. But yeah, there's books out there on shyness. There's books by lay people, but then there's also books by people who are social workers, psychologists that, are more clinical. And they tend to get into the more, reasons why people are shy or introverted and the statistics, which is some of that I shared with you this evening. But then there's also books out there by lay people who were shy and just have basic tips on how to get over that.
That's awesome. And I have a statement for you I want you to respond to, and this is kind of throwing the wrench in again. I love to do this, by the way. I hope you don't mind. I was once taught or told, and I take this and remember it to heart, we train people how we want to be treated.
That's good.
Make sense?
That's good.
Because if we're always living stuck in something, that we know we have a choice to overcome, then we're training the other people how they're going to treat us, right?
I like that.
Well, that was one of the things that helped me overcome some things, so I just thought I'd toss that in.
That's
good.
A
Herdyism. That's a Herdyism, okay?
I like that.
All right, so do you do, and I guess when you coach people, what is involved in coaching people? Because I want to get real specific, Antoinette, what you do for folks. What is your process? What's involved? How do you go about, how do people find you that are going through this issue with confidence?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I meet with them to just kind of find out where they're at. What is it that they are being challenged by? Obviously, if somebody is seeking a coach, then most likely it's because they are not happy with where they're at and see that they need to be more confident and that the shyness and or introversion is limiting their life. So I like to find out, what parts of your life do you feel like that this is limiting you by. And then, of course, there's different degrees of shyness. Like I said, some people it's just a matter of, eye contact. Other people are, okay with that. There are just certain other areas that they lack confidence and that they're wanting to work on. So it's really customized as far as figuring out what people are wanting to work on. And then, as a coach, it's all about the present. So it's not about, hey, let's go look at your childhood and talk about why you're shy and all of this kind of stuff. It's not really about your past. It's really about what's going on in your life now and where do you want to be 3 months, 6 months from now? What do you want your life to look like? And then working out specific action plans of what to do. And because I work with a lot of people who struggle with shyness, we really break it down. Like with one guy, he was going to go to a social event, and so we broke down what exactly was he going to do that day before, and then what was he going to do when he walked in the room, exactly where was he going to go, what was he going to say to people. So we worked all this stuff out. We kind of analyzed it. And then to make the night a success versus him, basically leaving early because he felt like, he was too intimidated to talk to somebody. With other people, it may be a professional situation as far as, professional goals and exactly how they want to approach either a project or a manager at work. So we basically break it down into really tiny steps. And then there's accountability every week. What do you do?
The fun part.
part. Yeah, and what's neat is like one of my clients said, and I love this, and he said, I feel like I'm treading in the deep water now. And before I was too afraid to go in the deep water. And so he would do these things because he knew that he was going to be held accountable for them, and they were action items that he came up with, but that he wouldn't have done had he not have known that somebody was going to hold him accountable for in a supportive way, of course.
Sure, and I think the key to this is that with somebody like yourself that's coaching somebody is the real plan and the action steps, right? I mean, you can't make people do the action plan, but by nurturing them and walking with them and helping them with the action plan, that seems like a real great way to get them over some of the humps you're trying to accomplish, correct?
Yeah, and also just getting people to think about stuff that they can't think about themselves. For instance, there was another client who wanted to ask this girl out, and so we worked it out as far as, what how he was going to approach her in this setting where he was going to see her, and then how he was going to ask her out, and how he was going to get her phone number. And so, for instance, now, we all use cell phones, and so there is no write your phone number down. It's, okay, I'm going to put your phone number in my phone. And I
Right.
said, well, are you going to be, like, shaking if you pull your phone out and she's giving you her phone number? I said, are you going to be shaking? And he said, yeah, actually I will. And I said, well, you could give her your phone and say, put your phone number in my phone. And so that way she's not staring at you. Yeah, so it's little stuff like that where we work out that kind of stuff ahead of time to where the person's not in the setting going, oh my gosh, what do I do now?
That's awesome. Good. Great information. I hope that the people that listen in, Antoinette, will get a good feeling for what you offer. You also are an awesome public speaker, correct? You speak at events?
Well, thank you, Herdy. Yeah, I love to speak.
I mean, if somebody wanted you to come speak to them, you do a lot of public speaking. Can people approach you for that, for events and things? Is that something you pursue? Okay.
Yes. I've done talks on like how to make a first impression with charisma, how to network confidently, just different styles of communication. So it's not all about shyness, but it usually does revolve around some kind of communication professionally or socially. But yeah, I love to do that. Thank you.
And I've heard her speak, and she's awesome. So, if you ever get a chance to hear Antoinette Griffin speak, you need to go hear her, okay?
Thank you.
I'm just telling you up front. She's a great speaker and fun to listen to. Well, I've had a good time tonight. I hope you have.
Yes. Thank you very much, Herdy. Yes, great questions.
Yeah, and the other thing I want to ask you on a personal fun note, you ready?
Okay. I am.
How's your trip to San Francisco?
Oh, actually, it was to the wine country, Sonoma, and to Sausalito.
Okay.
So we only went to San Francisco for the day.
I saw a picture y'all posted on Facebook. I just had to ask because it looked like y'all were having a blast.
It was fun. Thank you for asking. It was a great time.
No problem. All right, so one more time, and I am going to link it. If they want to go look at your website, could you repeat that for us?
Yes, it's socialconfidencecoaching.com.
I want to thank you, Antoinette, for being on our show tonight. We will have the after show up very soon. And again, thank you for being a guest on A New Way to Think in the Coaching Corner. Is there any final thoughts?
My only advice to really, like I said, anybody is just take a step out of your comfort zone. No matter how confident you are, there's probably something that's a little scary for you out there. And tomorrow, just decide that you're going to take one little step outside of your comfort zone.
Thank you for that. Thank you, folks, for listening to A New Way to Think, the Coaching Corner. We will be back next Thursday night, every Thursday night, from 7 on to when we finish. I want to thank Antoinette Griffin for being an awesome guest tonight, and you guys have a great evening, and we'll see you around the corner next Thursday night. Good night, everybody.